Oh, man, we are back after a layoff of a little bit. If you could tell, we're in a little different of places here, as I am actually on vacation. But still, you know what? The show must go on, Dan. The show must go on.
That's right. We've got you in the basement and me upstairs. I'm in the same place. You have been transported, but thanks to Ash's wizardry, we're good to go tonight. I'm so excited about this one.
Best producer in the business. Ash is helping us out. And of course, somewhere I have a child here who may come running down these stairs. We're going to see if that's going to happen or not. I'm very excited too. I've been looking forward to these. These have all been great. These have all been fantastic. In case you don't know, here off the air on the radio, we take your favorite radio personalities
off the air.
Well, on the record. Yeah. I don't even know the name of my own damn show. So
it's okay. You're on vacation.
Yeah, I am. I'm in vacation mode. But we take the best radio personalities from across the country and we put them on your airways, and we ask them questions that you probably don't get, even if you hear them every single day. And number one, tonight's guest, for me personally, is probably one of the funniest and best radio personalities that I've ever been involved with. I've had the pleasure of working with him for a few years as a partner, and he's incredibly talented and funny and just a really, really cool guy. And honestly, he is like a brother. He likes all of the same things that I like. We both are big Redskins fans. We both grew up in this area. We both just really drive well. And on top of that, he is an insane personality, so I can't wait to bring him on and talk to him. But thanks for hooking up with us on our show tonight. Feel free to ask any questions here in the comments. If you're watching this live on any one of our Facebook pages, make sure you ask any questions that you have. Hit subscribe if you could. We're trying to drive these subscriber rates up here and get this thing to 1,000 so we can start putting some cool stuff on for you and some more features that Danny and I have actually been talking about off little meetings here. Even though I'm on vacation, we're meeting. It's like extra work for you, Dan.
Well, we always love to sit around and brainstorm. We've been doing that for a long time, coming up with the next, cool idea. And I think just expanding on this, a lot of people are interested in kind of the behind the scenes of radio. And, we have the pleasure and honor of doing this as part of our jobs. And, I'm really excited because, I've only talked to Marco on the phone one time, and I'm really excited to dig a little deeper. So this is going to be fun.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be great. So hit share, like, and subscribe if you like this kind of content. We would love for you to be right here. And no further ado, let's get the show underway. It's time to bring, he only needs one name. He's like Madonna, Prince, all the same. And we will take Marco off the air and put him on the record now. Oh, how about that big build-up? Are you getting nervous at this point now, or?
I almost just unplugged my computer. I'm not even going to try to live up to this shit. I'm going to sit in my pool. I'm out of here.
I love it. Well, you are residing in near Tampa, Florida, so you could go to the pool tonight. What kind of weather you got down there tonight?
Oh, yeah. It's a chilly 91, 92. I was already in the pool, to be quite honest with you. But,
very nice. Very nice.
Well, it is. I meant all those things. A very dear friend of mine, and just a fantastic, some of the best times in my life you and I have had together. So I have a lot of inside scoop here, but I want you to tell your story tonight. Now, just give everybody a little overview of what you've done in your career and the quick highlights for everybody.
Well, it's with radio. I mean, I started really early. I was, 19, I think. And it was actually a big accident. I was going to college at James Madison University in Harrisonburg, Virginia. And that's where it started. We were at like this, I don't know, they were doing one of these expos at the college, and a local radio station, not a college station, but a local radio station was there. And the guy was doing, what we all used to call a remote. He was sitting at the tent throwing out some Frisbees. And then he went and started smoking a cigarette. And
nice.
Yeah. And so I was like, I think he's maybe taking a little break, So I just walked over, and it all started with, look, man, I love listening to the radio. I kind of feel like I'd be great on the radio. Like, what do I have to do? And that's how it all started for me.
That's
Nice.
awesome. I'm so glad he wasn't a jerk. That's that's comforting.
He was great. He kind of laughed, he's like, everybody says this,
Right.
And then he's like, so are you on the campus program, the campus radio station? And I was like, man, I listened to that piece of shit once. And I was like, there's no way,
Thank God he didn't follow up with, well, I'm the program director of that.
No, I saw the shirt he was wearing and he had the van. So I knew it was actually, this is funny. It's an oldie station. It was called Cool 98.5 with the big ass yellow smiling face. And like the music notes coming out of the thing's head.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, it doesn't really work like this. Like, you've got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do that. And I was like, well, I don't know what all that means. I was like, so what can I do? And he kind of just looked at me and he's like, I think this was a Saturday. He's like, if you can be at the station Tuesday, let's meet. And so,
wow,
that's how it all started.
Dang, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is awesome. Well, obviously you have a knack for doing big things. You worked in some big cities. What are some of your career stops for radio?
Yeah. So after that, I, that was Harrisonburg, Virginia, which back then, I don't know, like if you're doing the radio market thing, I think that was like 263. I think it's like you could add your blood pressures together and that market was still higher up, like it's a bigger number. So I think, right? Because what do we like? 120 over 8? Yeah, not even close. 2 blood pressures. But I wasn't there long, and so I was able to jump from there to Nashville, Tennessee, then to Indianapolis, then to Atlanta, then Washington, D.C., then Vegas, and then Tampa.
Jesus. Talk about trajectory, though. That's pretty good hops and skips along the way.
Yeah, I always said after I got out of Harrisonburg, I was like, I'm only going to work in NFL markets. That's it. If you don't have an NFL team, I'm not going. And then people are like, oh, Vegas. And I was like, nope, they announced that team when I got there. So I fulfilled all my obligations.
That's awesome.
So, all right. So give me, now you started, obviously nobody starts in mornings. I know you're a super big morning talent. You started probably doing afternoons or nights or whatever, and then you worked your way up. Did you always want to do morning radio, or is that an afterthought?
Yeah, I think I always wanted to do that. But the first job was overnights and I was still in college. So, and it was an oldies station. So, well, I actually had 2 jobs at that station. So one was to do the overnight show on the oldies. And when we were playing commercials or doing whatever, then they had an AM station that I had to go and check in because they would run these idiots. They would run and not the radio station, but the people that would listen, they would run old NASCAR races in the middle of the night, like 4 days later. And I'm like, you guys already know who won. You're not even watching it on TV. You're listening to it on the radio. So
how do you listen to a NASCAR race on the radio?
And there's another left turn, folks.
Yeah. And it's like, here's the thing. It was on like the tape, right? The big tape wheel thing. Remember those?
Yeah.
And, I just didn't care. So I'd always know when it got screwed up or it just ran out and I didn't switch the thing because all the phones would start ringing. And I'm like, damn, there's like at least 12 hill jacks listening to this thing because they're all on the phone right now, pissed off, So that was my job to do that and then be on the air at the oldie station. And then they had a country station, which was like the holy grail. It was called Country KCY, WKCY. And you couldn't even get close to the studio door unless you were like royalty, right?
Yeah.
It was just one of those things. And the morning guy, his name was Dusty Rhodes.
Oh, Dusty Rhodes.
Yeah. It was good. It was rich, man. It was a rich
Love those.
Oh, yeah.
But he was a real good guy to me. So I'd hang out after 6 a.m., because I did the overnights and I would just kind of talk to these guys and whatever. And so eventually I got a job at the country station concurrently with the oldie station. So I was doing nights and overnights. And then and this all happened like within 4 months of each other. Then the Crosstown Top 40 hired me away. And then I went over there and my first job there was middays.
Nice. The old midday
yeah.
jock.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could get just enough of a buzz every night and still get to work. So, but I was maybe 20 at that time doing full-time middays, and I'll never forget, like they bring me in, I do the interview, and he's like, well, we're about to make you an offer. And I was like, here we go, folks.
Here we go. Dude.
Here we go.
Full time on the air, and the sun will be out. Watch out. Here we go. So he sits me down. He's got that folder he pulls open, and he goes, 14.7. I'm like, I think I'm making more doing the things across the street with the old NASCAR races at 3 a.m. And he looks at me. He's like, 14.7. What do you think? And I'm like, well, I'm fine with the 7.
14 is not gonna work.
I got a big problem with the other numbers.
14 is tough, man.
So you're not dyslexic?
I mean, to be clear, this wasn't like 1948. I mean, this was
yeah. So I did what anybody else would do, and I just took it on the spot and signed it. And
you're like, I'm good.
I'm here. I'll be here tomorrow. He's like, no, put your 2 weeks in over there. I was like, I don't have to. And he's like, no, be a good guy and do it. So I did.
Oh my God. I know people think, when you say you're in radio, they're like, oh, you must be just rolling in it. Not really.
Well, listen, not to jump because I know we've gone, but this guy right here, and I will honk his horn. So that might have been 14.7, but he has, and I won't give obviously your salaries up, but he has made some of the biggest money that I've ever seen in some of these markets. So he actually is. You really ran the gamut from 14.7.
Well, he paid his dues. You pay your dues at 14.7 to get to those next spots. That's
I mean, you had to. The way I look at that is. And I got real lucky a lot too, but I had to get through the 14.7 stage to get to these other things. And, it's just, that's what it was. I will say, that job for 14.7, geez, I had so much fun and learned so much. Like it was just, it was just one of those things. I look back, I have more memories probably of that job than in my other, job stops where I was making, multiple 6 figures. I could point back to times in that, where I'm going like, this is just so, I'm living life. Like, this is fun.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and not only that, they're paying you to, and this is what I say, everyone, it's kind of a joke, but every 2 weeks, still to this day, I'll peek in my mailbox and I'm like, these people are actually paying me to goof off. So it really is when you're getting paid to learn a craft and to kind of get into something that you actually love, it really does feel like you're stealing.
Yeah, I like I said, it was just fun to go to work. It was fun. It didn't feel like work, and also I think I was able to get into it. I was young. I was very young, and so I was having a career, an on-air radio career when my friends were in college. So that to me was another kind of a surreal aspect to this whole thing. And I think I realized that there, because I thought to myself, so I wound up quitting college. And moving to Nashville because I got the call to go to Nashville, and everybody told me not to do it. Right. All my friends were like, don't do it, whatever. But I thought to myself, you're going to graduate in a year and a half and you're going to stand in line with thousands of people who just got the same degree as you for the same $50,000 a year job that you're going to work 60 hours a week. And my thought was I could always go back and do that. I could always find that if I needed to. But, this opportunity at this moment in time, at my age, I was like, I'm taking the risk.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And it was the risk paid off because in Nashville, you really made a good name for yourself. Now you started at the party there, and you were you in programming or were you just on the air there?
Well, no, when I started, I was just doing nights, 7 to midnight. And, it's funny. I actually took that job off of a phone, like 2 or 3 phone interviews, because I just, again, at my age to go to Nashville and not even be allowed to drink a beer in a bar, legally, I just thought I've got to take that opportunity. So I packed up my Jeep and I had a bag of clothes and I hit the highway, man, and did that whole, just drive the Nashville thing and see what happened. So I was doing 7 to midnight to start. The station was screwed up. It was bad. It wasn't a full market signal. I kind of knew that this was going to be, I don't know. Well, I thought it would be temporary. I was there like 6 years. So, but it worked out, but it was, going there, I kind of knew like, we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Definitely had the card stacked against you. The signal and the transmitter were miles away, and traveling through a mountain, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, there was they kept saying, I was like, hey, what's wrong with the freaking radio station? They're like, well, there's a mountain in front of the transmitter. I'm like, well, I mean,
brilliant.
God didn't build that damn mountain after you put that transmitter up.
Yeah, right.
There, so
yeah. And
then they boosted it a little and this and that, and but yeah, that was but that was again. I made a little bit of money there, but it was just fun. It was just fun. Underdog top 40 station at a moment in time when top 40 was like really popping. NSYNC, Britney. I mean, top 40 was back,
Yeah. And then you made your way at that radio station to mornings.
Yeah. So afternoon. So I did nights, and then I did nights, and then I was doing nights, and I get a call from a woman. Actually, I remember her name, Lori Reckon Sheridan from Cox, and she had just put on 95.5 The Beat in Atlanta. And she calls me really actually, she has a guy call me, and he's sort of like, talking in code. And I'm like, dude, what is going on? What's going on? And he's like, hey, are you available for a call tomorrow? I'm like, yeah. I was like, but I just don't even know what's going on with the call today. Like, who are you and whatever. And
it's all double secret code.
Yeah. So I don't know, man. And again, this is this is early 2000s. Okay. So radio is having its moment. Everybody's making money. Artists are big. I mean, it is the focal point of entertainment, really, radio. Because back then you could do crazy stuff on the radio and you couldn't do it on TV. Like the morning TV people couldn't do it, but the radio people could do it. So radio was big, make money and everything. So she organizes this thing, and she's like, I'm going to fly you out here to Atlanta. Now, I'd only been in Nashville for about a year. And so I think I was probably 21 at this point. And so from Nashville to Atlanta, again, that's a big, big jump. And she flies me out there, unbelievable studios in Atlanta, Cox. I mean, it was unbelievable. I mean, armed guards, security gates. I mean, the whole thing, And,
wow.
Yeah, the radio station was like a Taj Mahal, and it was kind of a rhythmic top 40, and they were looking for nights and everything. And they had to fly me out at like 6 a.m. So I got off at midnight in Nashville because, you couldn't tell your radio station you were going.
No.
And I told them in Atlanta, I was like, and I got to be back that day to get on the air. Cause I mean, they're not even gonna let me take vacation. So it was a quick in, quick out, great interview. It was weird though. It was me and this one other guy. So we meet each other at the station, and they're like, hey, you're our final 2 finalists. So you guys are sort of,
battle it out. Whoever's left standing.
And I'm like, shit, I didn't even stretch out on the plane for this. Like, I didn't know we'd be fighting. So, I didn't know. But so then they kind of leave us in this room, and it's kind of awkward, And of course, the first thing is, so where do you work? And I'm like, who gives a shit? Because I don't care where you work. Let's get this over with, I mean, and I'm tired. I'd been up all night because I'd done my 7 to midnight. I couldn't go to sleep because I was nervous. I really was nervous. So then somebody comes and takes him. Somebody comes and takes me. Then we do the rounds all day. And at the end, we meet each other again. Hi, bye, whatever. And so I get back to Nashville. I am dog-ass tired, like so tired. I do my 7 to midnight. And of course, the whole time I'm thinking about, am I going to get this job in Atlanta?
Yeah.
This is crazy, right? And so 3 days later, I get a call from Lori Reckon Sheridan. She's like the market manager. And she's like, we're going to offer you the job. Check your email in 10 minutes. So they send the offer, And I'm like, wow, like this is real. And I'm like, I got to do it. Right. I love Nashville, having fun, but got to do it. Now it's nights in Atlanta. It's nights. So it's not like I'm jumping a day part, but huge market jump, big money jump, and Cox is a big player. Now the station in Nashville is a smaller station, a smaller company. So they're like, all right, we'll give you 24 hours. Think about taking this job. All right. So I'm like, yeah. So I go into the VP of programming the next day and I'm like, look, man, I appreciate it and everything, but I'm going to take this opportunity. And he's sitting back. He's wearing the suit. That's back in the day. They all wore suits.
Oh, yeah.
Danny, do they still wear suits at the station?
No.
That's right. Nobody can afford a fucking suit in radio anymore.
Right. No kidding.
So, but yeah, so he's sitting there, he like steps up and he looks at me and he's like, where the hell do you think you're going? And I'm like, oh, yeah.
Here we go.
So we're talking. I tell him, he's pissed. He's like, I got you out of Timbuk nowhere and, this and that. I'm like, and his name was Brian. And he was a big guy and he was an intimidating guy, actually. And I'm not a big guy. So, and I was telling him and he's like, and I knew he was going to ask me this and it really pissed me off. He's like, so when'd you go on the interview? And I'm like, oh, shit, man. Like, I was like, so I went a few days ago, but I said, but I had the decency to, not take off and lie about, being on vacation or something. I went during the day and da-da-da-da-da. He's like, all right, well, I'm disappointed, but I guess I'm happy for you, whatever. All right. So I'm like, whew, got out of that. So I'm telling everybody, I'm moving to Atlanta to keep it quiet, whatever. I come in the next day. The GM and this guy, he's a VP of program, call me in the office. And I'm like, great, they're going to fire me now. So I get a couple weeks off before I move to Atlanta. We'd like to counter the offer. Oh, shit. Damn it.
Did you tell him how much money it was?
Yeah, but I lied.
You lied in your favor, right?
Yeah, but I didn't show him the paper because I couldn't. I told him, it has a thing, it's, you can't,
or a confidential thing.
Yeah. Non-disclosure and everything. So I lied by a little bit, a little bit, not a lot actually, but a little bit. I think it was like maybe $7,500 on the salary. But I also said that they were also moving me to afternoons in 6 months. Because they had a guy there who had a contract and the contract was running out and they weren't going to renew after 6 months.
And that you made that up or was that real?
It was real that I made it up.
You are good.
I really made it up. Well, and here's the thing on it, man, is okay, to be fair, they told me that they did have this guy and he, it's weird now thinking about it. I don't even know why they told me that. But anyway, they were like, yeah, he's here and he's kind of helping in the transition. It kind of made me feel like he wasn't the guy. I really honestly, and I am making this up now. They did not tell me this. I thought if I took that job, it was an on-air audition to do afternoons.
Yeah,
right.
Probably would have been.
Yeah. I felt that way.
Yeah.
So the offer in Nashville, this is a busy few days, is afternoons is more money than what the offer I got in Atlanta, and a couple of other things. I think my hourly for the like remotes and stuff went up. It was very fair. First off for Nashville, and second off because again I'm like 21, 22 years old, so I have to keep all this in mind.
Yeah,
that is so awesome.
Yeah, and I don't know, longer story, a little bit longer. I call Atlanta back and I'm like, hey, I'm sorry. You guys are great. Station's awesome. Good luck. I've been listening online. Sounds great, but I'm staying. They countered. And Lori's like, whoa. Like you gave us a verbal. And I'm like, did I?
Did I?
Did I?
I remember doing that.
I'm like, man, did that chick call me from a studio and she recorded that shit? Like, did she do that to me? I was like, look, I appreciate it, but it's just program director, because so they were moving me to program director too. That was the other thing in Nashville. So afternoons, program director, money, the whole thing. And she's like, I just think that you need to kind of weigh this all out. And I was like, all right, well, I appreciate it, whatever. And she's like, can I call you back tomorrow? I'm like, yeah, calls me back tomorrow. I think I went with my gut on that one. And then she had a funny line. She's like, which time? Damn it.
That's a good one.
That is a good one.
Yeah, it was good. It was the second time, actually. It was the second time. I want to look at it. But she's like, well, I am coming to Nashville to meet with you.
Oh, like, Jesus.
Oh my God.
Yeah. This is
and honestly, you're like 21, 22 years old?
I think I just turned 22, actually. Still,
that's pretty young and like new to be like fought over. That's amazing.
Well, I think, Cox back then was a real player in radio, and this station, 95.5 The Beat, like they were coming in to really at the time, Star 94 was the big top 40 in Atlanta.
Right.
Now, later in the show, I'll tell you how I went to that radio station and
shook things up.
Helped make it not the big top 40 in Atlanta. But anyway, but they, it really was a big deal. It was a big initiative for Cox for that to work.
Yeah.
And so she flies to Nashville. I meet her at the the Hard Rock Cafe down on Broadway and 2nd Avenue, the Hard Rock. And I walk in. Listen, I'm nervous as shit. She's now at this point, like I'm reading about her in Radio and Records, the magazines, and she's like the premier, not only executive in radio, but the premier female. She's like a ball buster. She was like one of the I can launch a format. I can tear one down. I can go in and grab the competition by the balls. We'll take ratings. We'll make money. Everything. And I was very impressed by her. By the way, I thought she was extremely impressive. And she sits there and she's like, look, I flew here on the Cox private jet, and she's like, I've got to get the lineup for this station done. And she's like, what's going on? And I'm like, look, it's crazy. I said, they've given me everything I want. And, and she's like, well, how much money do you actually need?
Holy cow.
And I'm like, I don't even know how to answer that question.
Not at 22. You have no idea. Really.
No.
And I'm so stupid. I actually said, it's really not about the money, And what was that? What was that? I could go back and punch my 22-year-old self, boy.
Because, boy, if you'd have dropped 100 G's now, she might have given it to you.
I don't think 100, but man, I don't know. I don't know. I'll never know. I should have thrown something out really stupid, but I was like, well, it's the afternoons. It's this. She's like, fine. Then the deal's for afternoons.
Oh my God. I actually have never heard the story as long as I've known you. This is insane.
Yeah. You were on the river.
Yeah.
I was having dinner 5 miles from probably where you were on the air.
That's crazy. Yeah.
You're up there playing, Backstreet Boys, and I'm there trying to figure my life out.
You got private jets docking for you.
Yeah,
Jesus
no
Christ.
kidding.
Well,
people arm wrestling over you.
I don't know. They didn't fly me out on a private jet. That thing they flew me out on was like a lawnmower with wings. When that thing started up like that, I'm like, oh man, I was nervous as hell. But
yeah, you don't like plane rides, so
no, not a big fan. But so we're sitting there, and she's like, we'll just make it afternoons. She's like, let me add a few bucks to it. So she added a little bit of money. And we had a great dinner, and I actually thought about paying for it, but then I was like, well, I'm not doing that either. But so she goes back. We have a follow-up call, and I was like, Lori, you're the best. I was like, I don't know if I'm making a mistake or not. I was like, but it just feels right for me to be here at this moment in time.
Now, I don't want to break the story up because it's amazing, but as a 22-year-old guy, how hard on a scale of 1 to 10 was the decision because that is a lot to handle.
It is a lot.
I mean, was it a 10? Stressful?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't, it was just so much with so many big players in the business, and even the guy in Nashville, Brian, he was a big name at the time in the business, and he was,
that whole situation would be so surreal. You'd be like, just this person, and to have all of this stuff is so awesome.
Yeah, it was a lot. But again, I look back on that later in my career, and, eventually I would sign with an agent. And that was a big relief, but it was also, it was fun, and it was a lot of action for somebody who was young.
Yeah.
It was kind of like in the moment of, it's weird. As I was going through that, I almost felt like I was on the air a little bit. Like there was a lot of moving parts in real time. It was just phone call and email, and it was, airplane rides and dinners. And it was just, I don't know. It was, it was wild. But at the same time, I will say, when I finally was like, I'm done. So what I did was I actually just signed the deal in Nashville, because, what I realized was the whole legal thing. Once I told them that I signed the deal, Cox, then they couldn't do anything anymore. So you can't really interfere with the contract.
Right.
So that's how I kind of ended all that. But yeah, it's incredible. I think that station's still there.
The Beat, yeah, I think it is. It was a big player for quite. I actually almost got a job at the Beat. Dale O'Brien became the PD there at some point, and funny because as I was going to Nashville, I was looking at that as well. That's funny. That's a great and that's great to kind of see the behind the scenes of how things work. I mean, people have no idea you're flying back and forth. You're actually on the air somewhere, and yet you're doing something because and a lot of people don't know. Sometimes we sign no competes, and you were going for a different city. You can't really do that in the same city, and then so that's fantastic. I love that, and I've never heard that story as long as I've known you, man. That is awesome. So you finally get to do mornings in Nashville with probably the best partner that you've ever had in the history of radio.
There's no doubt. I mean, there's no doubt, right? Like, there's no doubt.
Is that so? You started your morning. We started together. It was your first morning show.
So I was doing, yes. So I stayed in Nashville and did afternoons, and then they had a guy, Scotty, who was doing mornings. And what they decided to do with that was to move me down, and he was kind of having like different hosts every week. And, you know, for whatever reason, the management, whatever, they were like, I mean, it's just, there was no continuity. And some of the guest hosts were really good, and some of them were terrible. Sometimes they wouldn't show up. Sometimes they would leave early. So they moved me in there. And so him and I are doing it. He had been there a long time. He had a great following. I think, you know, him and the upper management, you know, they just decided with each other, he was going to move on and do some other stuff. And so then that's when you came in, because people knew you in the market. You had been doing afternoons on what was really the big top 40. And I think, you know, most books you were number one, you know, or right up there. And so, you know, they actually were able to bring you in, and then that's kind of when we started.
Yeah. So, and I tell everybody this is, I mean, the funnest 2 or 3 or 4 years, I've ever had in morning drive radio has been, with you. We did some of and now if you go back and watch my video, I talk about what I think is the ultimate radio stunt. Now we're talking back in the late 90s, early 2000s. This is early 2000s when radio was super fun. You didn't have Spotify, and it wasn't Netflix and all these other ways to take people's attention away. And really morning radio was the beast. And we were the beast in the morning. And we did some of the craziest things that I look back now, you could never, ever do anymore.
No.
My favorite was the Jessica Simpson. To me, that is the all-time radio story. I told that on mine. So I don't want to take the cover from you, but we do ask, like, what was some of the best stunts or radio wars or things you were a part of that just go down in history for you to be like one up there?
Yeah, I mean, the radio war stuff is really what got me excited, because I kind of think that the audience was most into that when shows would get on and start going after other shows. I mean, I think they love that drama. And by the way, that's good for all the radio stations, because it's a lot of moving around, a lot of audiences moving. They're trying to keep up. It keeps people engaged. You know, Woody and Jim were there at the river when we were there. And I don't know, we got a hold of their hotline. I mean, we got on their show a couple times. You know, I think that was great. I'm trying to think about some of the real specific stunts. I mean, the one that comes to my mind, actually, I was in Indianapolis, and there was a rumor that the Colts were leaving, and the Colts were going to move because they couldn't get money from the city to build a stadium. And Irsay, the owner, was like, "We're out of here." And I'm like, all right, well, this is a prime opportunity, because the city was on edge. Because if you remember, the Colts snuck out of Baltimore in the middle of the night, right?
Yeah.
In like 83, the Mayflower trucks, snow.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And everybody in Indy knew that. It really hadn't been that long. And the Colts, by the way, were good then. They were good. Like Peyton Manning had just come on. They had started to win. Like, it looked like the future was really bright. So I was like, hey, here's what we're going to do. Let's go rent some Mayflower trucks. All right. And we're going to take them and park them down by the RCA Dome. And we're going to put stickers on the window, big signs. It's going to say, cannot talk to the media. And what we'll do is we'll get on the air and say, hey, we just got a tip. The Colts are out of here. Apparently, they've hired Mayflower trucks. They're cleaning out the RCA Dome today, and they're heading out to, I think we said LA. I think there was a big rumor at the time. LA wanted a football team and whatever. Now, we had hired. Now, think about today trying to go to your promotions department or program director, like, hey, I need a credit card. I'm going to rent 6 trucks. I need all the part-timers there in the morning, whatever. So we get it all done. Of course, we park the trucks. And we've got the people, like the interns and the part-timers, we actually put them in Colts shirts and everything like that. And so they're sitting in the truck. And so we get on the air and we're like, hey, this has gone from bad to worse with this Colts thing. And this is a real shame that this city can't get it together and keep a team that's about to go on a championship run. We have just gotten a tip that they've hired Mayflower. They are moving today. They're parking at the Dome and the staff is ready to move out. The Colts are gone. So we do the break, whatever, go to commercials, play some songs, whatever. And people start calling, whoa, my God, this better not be true. Well, to start this bit off, you've got to have a little bit of flame. So we had staged a couple callers, hey, what's up? You're caller 9 or line 9. What's up? Man, I'm down here right now. You ain't lying. These damn trucks are packed. I pounded on the window. They can't talk to us. This is crazy. We lined a couple of those up. Then other people start calling. Oh, my husband's down there for work. He just sent me a picture. Those damn trucks are there. The Colts are leaving. Da, 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 da. So I'm like, this is great. Like everybody's pissed, right? So all of a sudden, because this studio, this is Emmis in Indianapolis, and it's just TVs everywhere, right? It's crazy. All of a sudden, I turn on we flip to the news station. They're there. They're trying to interview the part-timers. They're knocking on the window of the van with the sign that says, cannot talk to the media. And they're like, sir, why can't you talk to the media? When were you hired? Where are you going? Da, 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 And they're like, we're live and there's these 6 Mayflower trucks and they refuse to talk to us. And the radio stations are reporting the Colts are leaving. Da, 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 da. And I'm like, holy shit. Crazy. And then I'm like, all right, how much further does this go? Like what happens next? Well, somebody calls, turn on ESPN. Turn on ESPN. The ABC affiliate, because ESPN's ABC, so the ABC affiliate in Indy, they have their helicopter in the air and they are beaming down onto the trucks at the RCA Dome. And now I'm going, I believe the shit has hit the fan. And it got so crazy. I remember the guys from the news station across the hall, they opened the door. Can you believe this? And they just ran, and I'm like,
you're like, oh yeah, I can believe it.
I'm like, I can believe it. We rented those trucks yesterday. But so it became a huge story, ESPN, whatever. I'll never forget the GM at the time, Tom Severino, great guy, great leader, fantastic guy. If you're a morning guy, you want to work around that guy. He came in with a big smile and he goes, I know what you guys have done. And he goes, it's time to stop. He goes,
it's time to stop.
He goes, you have no idea the phone calls I'm getting, the people who are calling me. He goes, and not that you guys would have known this, I have been trying to negotiate the rights to the Colts from Clear Channel for the last 3 years. The window is up, and I swear to God, I don't know what's going to happen. And I'm like, oh, shit. I didn't know that. He was trying to steal the broadcast rights for anyway. So we get back on the air. This is like 2 hours long. And I was like, look, here's the deal. We made it up. But here's why we made it up. Because the government sucks. The local government sucks. They have the money to pay for the new stadium. So I did this to show the government how much the Colts mean to the people.
To the city. Yep.
Yeah. So that was the way I got out of that one.
Oh my God. That's
great.
Well,
as a promotions director, I would have absolutely been all in on that. Love it.
Well, what's funny is at the time we had just hired a new promotions director, and he was a real dick face. Like he hated.
Might have been the guy that left 98 Rock when I was there.
This guy's name was George, and he couldn't get an edgy, fun. I was like, dude, really what my job is to earn media, is to do stuff on the radio so that other media outlets talk about it and so that more audience comes to us. And he's like, that's not your job, that's my job. And I'm like, well, all right, whatever. So we did that, and he was mad. Program director loved it. We did TV interviews all weekend into the next week. And aside from all that, it was just kind of really cool to be able to get on and come up with something and then execute it and then see, the audience do
the result. Yeah. That's what I absolutely love about radio, how immediate it is. I love the promotional aspect when stuff like that kind of happens organically, even partly planned, but then, it kind of snowballs. I think that's amazing.
It was fun. Good luck doing that today, right?
Yeah. Oh no.
Yeah,
Thank
as
God.
you're telling the story, I'm thinking in 2023, there's a lawsuit.
No way.
There's a,
Yep.
there's a, I mean, dude, it's just, it's
Cease and desist orders are sent and lawyers are called. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're not getting the Colts, right? Like they're not going to sign the broadcast deal. Like you're losing that. Like
Of course.
so
Yeah.
they did wind up getting it after all. I think I had to go to a meeting and like kiss someone's ass.
Of course.
I think, and just say, hey, it was just about the show, the city, and everybody, whatever. And then they got the funding. I mean, not because of the radio bit, but they did wind up getting the funding and the stadium and all. So it worked out.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, you could say it was because of that.
Yeah,
that's what I meant. It was
take
absolutely
full credit. Take full credit.
So you've worked in some huge markets. You've done some big things. I know prank calls. You hear them now all the time. You actually started doing prank calls where you're not even on the radio when you were a kid, and you really made a name of it. Can you go through a little bit of that's kind of what that's a huge thing that I think you brought to the radio and to everybody else who now copies it.
Yeah. Well, thanks. I appreciate that. I think the big thing with what I was doing was I didn't hire those like agencies that you hire now for somebody to do like a phone actor service, which is so popular now. I just refused to do that. So, my whole angle was nobody's as entertaining as somebody who's legitimately pissed off. And I just believe that. I believe when you get somebody enraged, it's funny. And so when you hire those phone actor services, and all the stations do them now, whether it's the phone scam, the second date update, they're just hiring people to do all that stuff. And that's fine. I mean, it's fine. And a lot of the audience, likes that stuff. But for me, I thought the angle was real calls. And yeah, I had done them, growing up. I mean, I got in a lot of trouble growing up doing them. But I think it's one of those things where it's just, I enjoyed doing it. I enjoyed kind of coming up with, ideas to create an environment that people would get, just crazy and pissed off and everything. So
yeah.
it was just something that came natural to me, and I realized I could do it on the air.
So that takes a little bit of, you got to kind of be able to improv pretty quickly and shift on a dime, which really does equate to radio, right? It can't be scripted. And how did you get so comfortable with that at such a young age?
I think that's the whole thing. Is I think that I started doing this at such a young age. I just realized, what it took to get, to get the next oomph, the next moment. And so that's what I always tried to do was to really, I would actually, on the weekends, I would actually do practice prank calls. So I would just, not even at a station recording, I would just grab my phone and I was like, I sort of like this idea. And I would just, call people, random numbers, or I'd see a billboard with a number and I would just call and do it. And then I was kind of like, okay, I was like, I see kind of what works. I see kind of what doesn't work. There's some classic lines you could always work, is what I realized, that would always get something from the audience. I mean, one of the ones I used all the time, I mean, you remember this, it was inevitably somebody was going to hang up on you real quick. You usually didn't get the meat of it in the beginning, but you would call them back and they'd be like, hello, they're still pissed off. And it's like, I'm sorry, we got disconnected. We did not get disconnected.
I hung up on you.
You.
We actually named a prank call CD. I'm sorry, I got disconnected. Actually,
we got disconnected. Yeah,
we got disconnected.
We did actually, and we were probably one of the first morning shows that did a C. Back in the day, it was CDs, and listeners would come and buy them. And it was 10 or 15, segments, prank calls, but yeah. So I just kind of learned, like, it was more about, honestly, the psychology of it. I kind of really studied the psychology of what you could do to somebody, things you could say, because I had to keep the temperature hot, right? The thermometer had to be pumping for the call to be good. Once in a while you get people and I'd be like, God, this guy's so damn smart and logical. I mean, this isn't going to be any good, So,
Yeah. But boy, when you catch that lightning in a bottle and you get that guy, boy, it is so good, boy, because they say crazy things.
Oh, it is. I mean, I swear, I've been on some calls and it's like, I'm like, I can't believe it. And the first thing I do is I just stare at the screen and I swear to God, please be recording. Just make sure I am.
Please. Yeah. There will be times when we were cutting prank calls where they would hang up and you and I would bust out. I mean, from the fucking belly laugh of, dude, can you believe that dude just said that? That is, I mean, I can remember them as clear as day, man. Oh, they're so good, and you're so good at them. And that's the thing, man.
What did you like about? I don't want to forget, but what did you like so much about the Jessica Simpson thing that we did?
Well, I love the fact that because we actually commanded people on the radio to listen to another radio station as we tied up, because obviously coming from the river, which was a big thing, and to be able to, because the guy over there, I told the story about Rich Davis, who I think had a heart attack at some point, at least once when we were over there, because he was such an ass. And I'd left under bad terms because they didn't fulfill my contract, and so I had a point to prove. But just the fact that, and also that we think Woody and Jim were not great. They're great people, whatever. But we thought, and honestly, we had a signal problem that wasn't good. We had a lot of issues, and we actually were the only radio station every morning show to actually beat them in their own backyard, which was unheard of. Yeah. So I think all those things tied up were good, but I just think it was good that we got their hotline. We faked a call. The real Jessica Simpson was calling and couldn't get through because we were tying it up. And the whole thing was he wanted to be first. It just was, to me, it's the greatest radio story. Well, I have like 3 greatest radio stories. They all were in Nashville. They all were with you. The other one, obviously, I love is the gas. The gas one is great. Because we just did the Radio Wars. The river was, I mean, you could tell the story, but we actually took the party. We had like these huge they called them UAVs. They're like fucking Mayflower trucks. They're big for remotes, and we had the vans, and we found out where the river, who was our competition, was going to give away free like $1, like a gas for $1 or whatever. And we took the station B. Marco found out where it was going to be and how it was going to go down. And we go there first with our trucks. Now, to fill the one truck up, it's like $480. So we parked the party vehicles all in the front of the line. Rich Davis is losing his mind because he can't say no. And we knew before where they were going to do it. And so, and then the news came to cover the free gas, and they were covering our station, and they didn't even get credit for the gas. He was so mad, dude. He almost had an aneurysm in the parking lot. It was one of the best things I've ever seen in my entire life. But that was a lot of planning. Like Marco would be on the phone. Okay, here I found out because Marco had a lot of ties in Nashville, and people liked us, so we got a lot of inside information. And I think, frankly, they wanted to see us. We were the underdog, and I don't know. To me, those were the great. And the other one was obviously the highway. That one to me might be number one. The traffic that we blocked for about 45 miles.
Yeah, that was good.
We did some stuff, which is why people pretty much either love me or hate me in radio and we would do it to other shows. We would call other shows. We would put other people on blast. We were actually real, man. We were the first real radio. We did not pull any punches.
Yeah.
No, we didn't. And it's kind of incredible to think about, like, even hearing you tell the stories, like that is actually how you won back then. That was the playbook. But what people were telling us back then is like, oh, you guys are irreverent. You're out of control. You're this, you're that, it's all that stuff. But you look back now, I mean, I don't think a lot of shows today, I mean, and I know it's just a different environment, so you really couldn't do it. But I don't even know that the people who are still in it would be even excited to do this kind of stuff.
No, I can tell you that for sure. No, they're not. And it's sad, especially because that part of radio is dying out, and it's a sad state of affairs. I got into radio in 1990. Well, 80.
87.
Well, I was right out of high school, and 86, I think it was 85, 86. And then, ended up at 98 Rock coming from Z104 in Frederick. And, I got out for 17 years and came back and was like, what happened? Like, it's just not the brainstorming sessions, the coming up with kind of crazy things to put you on the map. And the brainstorming sessions, you'd go way up here and then you would maybe dial it back so legal could approve some stuff if we had to do that. But, the people in radio at the time were like gung ho, like, yeah, let's do it. Let's put us out on the corner in the middle of Baltimore and see what, we can stir up or whatever. So Yeah, it's just not that way anymore. And that's kind of a sad thing. It's a sad thing, I think.
What used to get you fired is now what keeps your job. So it was the people that were, the people that were lazy and not putting on a show back in the day. The PDs would be like, man, you're out of here. You're not doing anything fun. You're just
right.
You're not coming up with new ideas. Now that's almost the playbook to stay in the game, unfortunately.
Well, and that's the thing, I really feel like in obviously I'm in a very small market, little hometown market here in Frederick, but sometimes I look around and think they're striving for mediocrity. And it drives me crazy because I remember the days of radio and want to bring some of that back. And it's just not and it comes from, it's everywhere. It's the jocks, it's the programmers, it's the, owners who are concerned. I mean, it's just kind of everywhere. And it's a sad state because a lot of these young people getting into radio now will have no idea how really fun every day used to be, and it would change on a dime, and you would come up with these crazy things and execute them and just laugh like for days. Like,
let me tell you something. If you want to see what Marco and I were doing in radio, all you have to do is flip open TikTok. All these people on the street doing these funny, we were doing that in we were the TikTok of the 2000s. Like, we had a stunt guy out taking people's things off their plate live on the radio. I mean, telling the Cluck You Chicken, one of my favorites, where Marco again comes in one day at the radio station. Dude, I've got this hot sauce bottle. It's 1,000,000 Scovilles. What's a Scoville? I have no idea, but it's hot as balls. Well, let's put it on some chicken wings and feed it to people. Okay. And we literally made 2 batches, mild and medium, of this 1,000,000 Scoville hot wings, and put them on the street of Indianapolis and film people eating them.
Well,
by the way, I hope that guy that passed out is okay. You couldn't do that today, but I'm pretty sure they had to call the hospital for that guy.
Well, I know they did, because as we turned and walked away, this was, for some reason, we decided to do this on a Friday afternoon to give some stupid tickets away to some show. The ambulance rolls up, and I remember calling the program director, and he's like, hey, it sounded great, man. Those people were screaming and yelling. He's like, I mean, are those ringers? Were people
those actors? Nope.
I'm like, well, here's the thing. They're not. I was like, and actually, they're in an ambulance. And he's like, oh, no. And I was like, yeah. I was like, I don't know how bad it is, man, but I don't know. We never got sued. I remember that. We never got sued.
We did not.
Those people would have made an easy 25 grand. I mean, that would have been easy. I mean, but never got sued. And yeah, you're right, man. It's like all that stuff that, you see now that trends and that's what was going on. It's just, we did it at a time where the technology didn't exist. There wasn't really a way to share it.
Right.
And so it was just, getting ears on a radio, and it's memory recall, people to remember the call letters, because that was even before PPM.
Yeah.
And hoping that they would write it down. And so the idea is to be the most memorable. That was the idea. That's how you won, was to be the most memorable.
Yeah.
So that transitions me into the next question is so radio in 2023. Obviously, it is not what it used to be. It can't go back. The genie's out of the bottle. What do you think is wrong with radio in 2023? And do you think it can be fixed? And a part B, C, is there a way to bring young people back to radio?
Well, here's the thing. People say, oh, radio's changed. I kind of push back on that a little bit. I think a lot of it didn't change, and that's the problem. I think so much of it didn't change. I remember being at these conventions and stuff, when I was doing mornings, when I was in programming, and all of these executives, guys older than me, would laugh at, oh, they just introduced Napster. You're going to take a digital file of music, and I guess you're just going to sit there and listen to it. And, oh, there's this guy in his hoodie. His name's, Cluckerberg or something like that. And he's got a social site and MySpace. And they were laughing at these people. Like, the radio CEOs were laughing at these guys. And what's interesting now is one of these apps IPO day one for more than the entire radio portfolio was worth of these companies. I mean, in the first day, and by a mile, it's not even close. So I think what happened was, is that because, with where I was age-wise, I was kind of attracted to this new technology. I thought it was neat. I thought it was interesting. I liked the MP3 file sharing. I liked MySpace. I thought it was cool, and technology was becoming more visual. So I thought these older guys making fun of this younger generation was always a big mistake. I thought it was a big, big, big mistake. But I get why they did it. I mean, I understood. What were they going to say? Hey, we got to make some changes really quick, or we're in big trouble. I mean,
Right.
that doesn't happen in a lot of boardrooms. So, can it be fixed? I mean, here's the thing. It used to be like, you've got to have a great radio station and then worry about your social media channels. If you got a shitty radio station, but you have great social media channels, none of it works. I really think the argument could be, hey, if you just have a decent radio station and great social media, then I think maybe you have a chance. Then maybe you have a chance to bring it around. But if you're not hiring people who have more knowledge of social and digital than terrestrial, then you're literally, the light at the end of the tunnel is a train. Because when we carry these things around and we have access to all these different platforms and communication and apps and everything, I just, how do you reverse that? I think a lot of these radio towers that you see in the next 5 to 7 years are going to house the school board meeting. I think that's where you're going to listen to the school board meeting, or the mayor's debate. I think that's what's going to be in all those things. Look at all these radio stations being sold off now. Look who's buying them. Religious buyers, right? It's a lot of these religious stations that bought them. I mean, WRQX in DC, where I did afternoons and was the program director for a while. They're gone. They were bought by a religious broadcaster. So kind of the mainstream players of entertainment aren't even buying big market stations anymore. They're getting out. That's got to mean something, right? That's got to mean something. So I think to expect that there's going to be this movement of this young kind of adrenaline laden movement for radio, I wouldn't bet on it at all. And I don't really understand, honestly. I think every program director today, really, who's over 55 should be fired.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's not because they're 55 and they have a program director title. It's just because it's really impossible to expect somebody who's 55 to understand a digital consumer today. And everybody's a digital consumer. And so I just don't know why, A, you would have them in that position. It's tough on them. They don't know what's going on. And B, you're sacrificing your potential results.
Yeah, look, I mean, I totally think that, it may not actually be the age, but it's the mentality. If the mentality of the program director isn't one that everything is changing so quickly and I'm going to do what I can, when your staff is telling you, hey, you know what? This is the hottest song on TikTok right now. Why aren't we playing it? Or this sound is being used millions of times. Why aren't we playing it? And then they're like, oh, well, the research doesn't show. I mean, radio is supposed to be immediate. We have the capability to react to things in real time. And if we're not utilizing that opportunity, to me, that's no good. And
that's the thing there, because notice, I didn't say radio personalities over 55 should be fired, because you've got guys on the air who get it and are good.
Yeah.
I look at a Dan Patrick, and any of these kind of guys. These are great guys. These are guys who get the audience. They're audience-driven people. They understand that they're not there to tell the audience where to go and what to do. They're there to listen to the audience and then customize the experience.
Yeah.
So there's plenty of guys over 55 on the air who I think are great, and hopefully they'll be on. But like you said, they need to be getting pushed from people that are like, hey, have you checked what's trending on YouTube right now?
Right.
Have you checked what makes something actually go viral? Because the algorithms change on platforms multiple times a year. These are things you have to understand, you have to know.
Yeah.
And so I just really think that, the leadership, the day-to-day on the ground leadership needs to come from a different group of people.
Yeah.
I get the emails still from the radio station websites. It's the same guy saying the same thing for the last 30 years. They said the same thing at the convention I was at in 2005. They're nice people, whatever, but they truly are saying the same thing. Well, you've got to relate to your audience. Ding, shit bag. I mean, unbelievable. I'm sorry. Jesus, man.
That kills me, actually. That kills me because, again, like I got out of radio for so long and nothing changed from that perspective. They're still repeating the same things. Be human, be connected, do the, be local, talk about local. Well, yeah, if it was that simple, freaking anyone could do it, but it's not about that.
And what's local? Some guys I listen to now, they're like, hey, it's sunny and 85 in Tampa, and we'll be back next with another update. Ding. That guy throws off his headphones and goes, damn, I'm local. I just said Tampa.
Right. Exactly.
That's just, it doesn't, it's a lot of box checking.
It is.
And you have a good point, really, Danny, with the be human, because these radio consultants, they made so much money with be human, slice of life.
God.
Be their friend. Understand that you're going through things they're going through. I'll tell you, in Tampa, when I was doing mornings here in Tampa, they brought in this complete shit face named Travis, and he's sitting there, and so I have 5 kids, but my youngest, he has autism, and so we were going through the diagnosis, and it's kind of a thing, right? Like it's a thing, like, and so it's personal. So I would talk a little bit about it, and to be honest with me, it was kind of uncomfortable for me to talk about, which is kind of I feel like I was doing the right thing,
right?
And I was getting a lot of great feedback, and when I say I was talking about it, it wasn't like, hey everyone, we're gonna.
I got a son, and
now presenting on the spectrum for the next 60 minutes.
Right.
That wasn't it. It was just, I'm stressed out. I don't know how to feel. Email me and
go through that. Yeah.
We're going through it. Well, this asshole, like, he was like going around the station being like, oh God, what's Mark talking about? It's like a freak show over there with these autism kids, and I'm just like, well, man, well, which one is it? Is it be human? Is it be real? Or is it not? You know what I mean?
So, be human, but not that, right? Yeah.
Well, what it always was be human and be authentic until it gets a little uncomfortable. And then don't do that. So,
Yeah.
Well, and you would argue that uncomfortability is probably the biggest thing you could do, obviously, to gain attention, to get somebody out of their mundane work. Whoa, wait a minute!
Yeah.
My kid just got, we just got an autism test. All of a sudden you're connecting with people. It's so crazy. So
it is.
What do you think that radio can do? Is there anything that they can do right now to get these young people not only involved, maybe to be on, or do you think radio is lost really?
Well, I'll only work remotely. So that's, I'll only work remotely. So if you want me to be a solution, you're going to have to hire me, but I'm only working remotely.
I love it.
But, that should actually be on a shirt, and it's the quote of the 20s. I only work remotely.
Well, I will say, to that real quick, it's funny. I when I left Tampa and my agent, we were then the virus. And so there wasn't a lot going on. But we got a call from a station, a huge station. Okay, it's a top 3 market, and it was mornings, and it was country. And I had just gotten done doing 4 years of country in Tampa. We had a great run here, and the thing I'll never forget is the guys called me and they're like, "Hey, come out for an interview." And I'm like, "Listen, I don't even want to. I'm trying to save you money. Like, I can't move. My kid's just diagnosed with autism, and I've got 4 other kids, and it's a lot, and they're like, oh, no, just come see the city and do it. And I was like, listen, let's do this remotely. And they're like, no, that'll never work for country audience. And I'm like, really? Like, what? Why? And they're like, dude, the country audience, they got to know you're shopping in their grocery stores.
Oh my.
I'm like, man, is that where we're at now? Like, is that where we're at?
Who does stuff remotely is Mr. Beast, and I think he's got 100 million followers. So
it's so true. It's funny. Growing up, I always knew David Letterman was doing his show in New York, and I lived in Washington, D.C. I didn't give a shit. I still watched. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
I never held it against him. Ever.
Did you ever see him in a grocery store?
Right.
Never.
This is the leap that they forget. When you do something remotely, you still have to connect, whether you're sitting in the studio in the city or whether you're 1,000 miles away. If you're connecting, doesn't really matter. And I think there's a big misnomer about that. Well, and especially now, and I joke about, everybody wants to work remote because that's the way we've been, or some stations have gone through it. I had never had a problem with people being able to work from home. My thing was, don't sound like you're working from home. Don't sound like you're sitting in your closet and then you've rolled out of bed 5 minutes ago, and you're late. The laziness comes through. Like if
what
you
they're telling him, not to cut you off, Dan, that's a great, amazing point. What they're telling you is that the way other people work, I know you, Marco, and I know the way you would work remotely is you would have the cities, you would know the roads, you would educate yourself. You wouldn't just be a bump on a log. So what they're saying is, well, this is how the normal person would do it. But, I'm not normal. That's why you're paying me an insane salary.
Yeah, that's why you want me. And, that's the big thing. Because we have had voice trackers who couldn't pronounce it. You could tell they're getting their whatever money per month and they're reading stuff. And you're like, oh, my God, seriously, they can't even pronounce the cities right. And they're screwing up what that is. That's the thing to me. It's be like your local, and that I have no problems with it.
Yeah, I think, the way to go about that is the companies, at least what I would do is I would go after the guys who are really good and have been really good and either are not working now or maybe are working in a place that they don't want to be, but they want to move home, but where you're working, where your radio station isn't home, and just say, listen, you're a talented guy, you're a talented woman, you've proven yourself. We need talent. Right. And I really believe online is the new on the street. It used to be, we got to get on the streets. We got to get out on the streets. You will affect way more people on a screen right now than walking up and down a street all weekend. It's just the way it is. So if you're also good at that, then who cares where I go to bed? Who cares where I grocery shop? Who cares? And the audience doesn't care. The audience doesn't care. These older program directors have been conditioned to say, you're local. You're a part of the community.
Yeah, just because you sleep in that place gives you some more credibility, which is absolute BS. Really.
I hate it now. I see guys, buddies of mine, that every 2 or 3 years they jump to a new city and they're taking a picture with the jersey of the city they're in. I'm like, this is your 6th picture in 10 years with a different baseball team. It's ridiculous. Dude. Yeah. It's absolutely it's okay, by the way, to have another team you like that's not this team. It's okay.
Right.
We live in kind of a transplant society, and when you move somewhere, you don't have to throw all your old jerseys out and sign your faith, over to the new team, but it's things like that those are very hollow messages.
Right. Well, that's the term authenticity to me. I think that's the juice, right? That's the it factor. When you're truly authentic to yourself, that comes across to the audience. It's like you don't have to try to prove you are that. Just be it, and they'll feel it. That's the thing to me.
Yeah, right. And so what you say is great. And so what we have to do is find people that say, "Make me feel something."
Yeah,
like the people running the show, the captains of the boat need to say, you got to make me feel something, not check these boxes.
Right.
Gosh, sounded really local. Heard you took a call from a guy on Main Street. It's like, holy shit. It's just, it does have to be, it's going to have to be such a crazy jump to more of an emotional medium. I mean, super emotional medium, and emotional doesn't mean crying and sad. It can, but it can mean a lot of other things. It can really mean, imagine if Joe Rogan would have pitched his podcast to iHeartMedia. I mean, who knows? Now, I don't know that you could do that on the radio. You'd have to do a radio version because of the language and everything. And that's another thing, by the way. I think culture, like even with TikTok, bad language or profanity is not what it used to be. It's so common speak now, like so common speak. Yeah. I have, some of my kids, they're all athletes. They compete in sports, middle school aged, and what you hear on the field, what you hear from the parents in front of their kids. I mean, it's just so common to say, oh, bullshit, or fuck that. Then when you say that, it was like there was going to be a brawl, but it's not like that anymore. So I think the flexibility and the watered down and I don't want to say standards, but just what cussing means has also hurt radio, because I think there's certain talent out there that are like, I can't get on there and do what I do and not say this stuff. You know,
be not right.
The guys we all watch on the Theo Vons, the Joe Rogans, you know, all of them. It's just, it would be very tough to do.
Yeah, for sure. Well, what is one of, if you look back on your radio career, what is one of your fondest memories? One of the things where you're like, this is why I do this. This sort of all came together. What is something that you can look back on that you look back and say, damn, that was just good?
Yeah. Well, I think all the radiothons were good. For everybody does the radiothon. And so I think that's a good thing. I probably took that a little bit for granted when I did them, because those were always a little tough for me, honestly, because I kind of was more of an edgy personality. And so this was those radiothons kind of were, it wasn't that, we weren't going to do a prank call in the middle of a this T-shirt saves lives radiothon. But I appreciate that I was a part of it. Those would have been successful with or without anybody on the air, because they're so big. I think, for me, there was a family in Indianapolis, and they had a young son with cancer. And it's so crazy. I can't remember their names. I can't remember the boy's name, but they called one day. They had called and just kind of, they were just fans of the show. And the son had cancer, and we got to know him. And they invited us to his birthday party, which I just thought was so cool. And I didn't have kids. I was still very young at the time. I think maybe I was like 27 or 28. And so me and the producers and a few other people who were on the show, we went to the birthday party, and it was really cool. His parents were neat. And they said, things are really getting tough for him. And we're like, wow, he looks so great and everything, and he's having fun. And they were like, you guys have no idea, because we'd give him shout outs on the air and try to put him on the air when we could. And they were just like, you just have no idea, what it means to him. And the mom started crying and everything. And so over the course of the year, they invited us to more of his events. We would go, and they would show up to our events. And one day, out of the blue, I get a call. And it's one of the producers, and they're like, hey, the family call. I just can't, it's so weird. I can't remember their names, but it's almost like maybe, is it maybe like a PTSD thing where I don't know. It was very emotional. And they said he wants to see you in the hospital. And we go to the hospital, and he had a relapse of his cancer. And we walk in, and he's like, I'm not going to make it. This kid, this kid's like 8 years old, 9 years old.
Oh my gosh.
And I was just like, what? What? And the mom and dad were like, he had to see you guys again. And it was crushing. It was crushing. And I think back to that, and I think it's like, okay, that's not radio. Like, honestly, I don't want to give the credit. So many people be like, that's radio, making the personal connection. No. Radio was a platform, and that's great. Yeah. But it was the people who were doing what they were doing. So, like I tell people now, you can have that effect over a screen. You can do that over a screen. It's funny. A lot of my radio friends, they only call me now when they get fired. It's really weird. It's like, they always call me when they get fired. I told my wife a few months ago, I said, guarantee you got fired. Hello? Oh man, I didn't hear that. You're kidding me. It's like, but I do tell people that, like, whatever you had and whatever you were doing on a microphone and just going to ears audio, you can do here, And so, but that was a big moment for me. What I think I loved the most about that was it wasn't a corporate push moment. It wasn't on the schedule.
Right.
It wasn't
orchestrated. It wasn't,
There was natural. No sponsor events, and we didn't ask for $19 a month and just Starbucks a day, and it's all covered, right?
And organic, one-on-one. That is amazing. Yeah.
It was incredible. He lost his life the next day, and I always remember that, and honestly, the kind of show we were doing for that young family, we were kind of aggressive with our content, but he loved it. That's all I cared about. He loved it, and the family loved it, and Yeah, that's been, gosh, I guess that was 2008 or 9 maybe. So 15 years or so. That's wild, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, that is awesome, man. And I know, I mean, I could literally do this all night, but what is your, if you want one thing to be remembered by, I'm sure you're going to get a job. Maybe they'll watch this, be like, you know what, we got to let this guy do whatever he wants from Tampa. Hopefully not, because you and I got a podcast that we're doing. But what do you want to be remembered? How do you want to be remembered? You've done a lot in this space, man. You've worked in huge markets. You've done a lot of great things. I know you're an animal lover, and you've raised money for all kinds of stuff. How do you want people to remember Marco from radio?
I just don't care. And I honestly, I say that from a good place, really. I was able to really, when I left this business, I was working with a total monster, this program director. But at the same time, I was going through this really tough stuff with my youngest son and him going through an autism diagnosis. And so I think I don't, I probably shouldn't say I don't care. I guess I don't care like what somebody would say that I didn't really know that well. And maybe
Right.
That guy on the air he was kind of a jerk, or he was kind of this, kind of this, man, I think people like you that I work with, honestly, to talk to you a few times a week, like I do, and a few other buddies that really know me, I'm just glad we're all still friends, to be honest with you. I mean, that means the world to me, because it was a tough business. And I think now, I'm just glad I kept the friendships that I had. That means the most to me. I think if you made somebody feel something, whether it was good or bad, you probably did your job. I mean, you've heard the saying before, make them love you, make them hate you, just make them feel something about you. Here's what I'll say. I really worked hard. I told everybody this at 10 o'clock, you've got like 20 hours until the next show, minus, eating dinner and sleeping and going to the gym. You've got to get your ass to work. Like it's a clock. It's coming backwards at you. So I always treated this honestly, like show business. I really did. There was more times than not, I would get off the air and say, even when you and I were doing the show, I don't know how many years of content we left off the table. Like we would leave a show with 5 other shows we could have done.
Right.
And I appreciated that. I appreciated working with someone like you who, A, I learned a shitload from, but B, pushed me hard. I mean, and like you said, you can't really find that. You can't just sign up to do a new show and find that in people, to really say, I respect this as show business. I will say real quick, because every time I talk about my career, my agent, Norm Schrott, he passed away a few years ago. He was the greatest guy on earth. He was the president of ABC Radio for a time. And he was such an inspiring leader to his clients and forget the client agent thing. I mean, he really we talked more about life than business. But he beat up so many big companies to get me big money. And he was a great guy. And I got to tell you, whatever world you're in, find a mentor. And I think I fought that for a lot of years. Find somebody that really knew the insides of the game. And, he was that to me, but I just got to give him a shout out. But he had some, he did Johnny Dare in Kansas City, Mojo in Detroit, a bunch of people. But he was a great guy to be with. Listen, there are many days I will just sit back and start remembering kind of these bits or these interviews, and just go, wow, like that was crazy. That was crazy,
Well, I've said it 100 times and say it again. I've done mornings most of my entire adult life, and never have I had a partner as good as you, as funny as you. And like you said, the shows we would prepare for 4 hours. And I don't think we ever got to the end of our list of stuff that we put together during the morning. But when you work with somebody like that, it is magic, man. And I just want to appreciate you. And I'm glad we're doing a podcast. By the way, you can see our podcast. It's called the Fun Bunch Podcast right here on YouTube. You can check that out. And I just really want to talk real quick. I know we're a little over time here, but I know autism is very big, and having a child diagnosed with autism I can't even imagine, because I know your guys high on the spectrum, and it takes a lot out of you. And I know you have a podcast you're doing with that. Can you just tell us a little bit about what you're doing with that, and you gained a bunch of followers on TikTok, and you give them out your channel and stuff.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I think sometimes in life you have to take talents that you have and experience that you have, and then look for meaningful items or purposeful items in your life and apply that. And so since I didn't get back on the radio, it just didn't make sense for me to move with everything. My wife and I started a podcast. It's called Daily Autism, and you can go to dailyautism.com. It's a link tree, so all the links are there. And yeah, it's a lifestyle approach to parents who are just totally stressed out about, autism. The tagline is fun, sad, and real. Right. And I can't tell you how many people are like, oh, take the sad out. It doesn't sound good. I'm like, oh, yeah, come spend the night.
Yeah.
Come over for a weekend, but, that goes. I mean, could you ever imagine a radio show saying fun, sad, and real? I mean, they just be like, oh, just put people in a bad moods, pissed off with their coffee, but, yeah. And so it really is just more of a lifestyle approach about autism, about being parents of autism. Ironically enough, it is back on the radio with Salem Media here in the Tampa Bay area and a couple of their stations just on the weekends. But yeah, TikTok is really a big driver of the content, and Facebook and TikTok are big, and LinkedIn. I do a lot of stuff on LinkedIn with that, but if you go to dailyautism.com, you can link to it. That's another thing I'll say about TikTok real quick, just to try to, get people an understanding. What you hear about and everybody doing the stupid TikTok dance of the day or the TikTok challenge, that is a little bit of TikTok, but that really is not the whole content.
Not anymore. No, not anymore.
It is becoming a place where you can search. I mean, it is a search-heavy platform where you can educate people. And it never hurts to do that under the guise of being entertaining as well. But I'm just saying, there is, if you're into something, you can get on TikTok and talk about it, and you're going to find people that are interested in what you're doing. But as it pertains to autism, it's just we're really at a point here in America, really the world, where we've got a lot of these kids that are being diagnosed with autism. And it's going to become a big issue for society, when these kids who are, Trey's my other son, but Cal, he's 5. You like that growing up outside of Baltimore named Cal, right? You like that?
I love it.
There you go. But yeah.
He broke the record on my birthday.
Did he?
September 6th. Yep. Yeah.
You'll never forget that one. That's awesome.
Nope.
But yeah, it's interesting to do this. But it's a lifestyle perspective stuff. We try to keep it fun, upbeat, and sometimes you just got to laugh. You got to laugh about what's going on, even though it's not necessarily funny. But a lot of people it's becoming in itself a lifestyle where people are saying, "Oh, I'm a special needs parent," and if you know, and so that's kind of becoming an ecosystem in itself.
Well, massive respect, man. Like I said, on the radio, fantastic. I know if anybody has any common sense whatsoever and sees this video that runs any kind of radio, they should reach out to you, because I am with you. I think, you could do a show, what we're doing right now, on 3 different areas and put on a morning show and probably beat 95% of what's on currently.
No doubt.
Yeah. And you know what, too? Also, expect more of your talent. I think the people who are there want to do, most of them, not all of them, maybe not most of them, some of them want to do more. Let them do more. I mean, true crime is happening in every city in America right now. Why does your morning show not have a true crime podcast talking about what's going on in their own city? That's the thing. Everybody thinks that their podcast has to be about the music that the radio station is playing. That's ridiculous. That's already on the radio. So their digital footprint and their screen footprint should be all this other different interesting stuff.
It should be all the stuff you can't do on the radio, actually.
Exactly
That's what it should be. Yeah.
Exactly right.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you for going off the air and on the record with us, Marco. Personal friend, and I have huge respect for you, and I'm glad we got a chance to sit down and talk. And we didn't even really talk about half of the things that you did, so maybe we're gonna have you on as a repeat guest.
Yeah, I'd love that.
Even you and I still have stories that we didn't even get to.
I know.
I got to save it. So,
well, we are gonna have
part two.
Stay tuned for the part 2. So
yes,
there you go. Make sure you hit share, like, and comment. And man, this has been fantastic. I've been looking forward to this one. So thanks to everybody who joined us tonight. Special thanks to Ashley, the best producer in the business. Thanks to Danny, the only brother-sister duo on the radio combo that I know of in YouTube still. So that's going on. And having the best guest in radio. Thank you for joining us tonight for Off the Air and On the Record.